Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wilde Realms' first FAQ session, podcast style. I am your ref Clippy, and with me is Problem Child.
Hello, glad to be here.
We're trying to answer some common misconceptions, some raw stuff we wanted to clarify. We've noticed that people get confused about in the field. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I can see that I'm due to start here, so let's jump right in. Clippy, can you tell us how does banish work?
So Banish is a spell, and unlike the majority of our spells, it is not one that you can cast at range. It is a touch range spell, so you're going to have to get quite close to your target. Once you've successfully cast Banish, that target will put their finger in the air for about 30 seconds to denote that they're no longer there. So the crucial bit is it's a touch spell. And
Perfect.
then the next question is what is the mass effect range?
So the radius of a mass effect is 10 meters. You have to have there's a little bit more to it than that because if it's just shouted, then it's a 10-meter circle. But you might see sometimes out there in the world mass denoted with a it's going to cut my arms off, isn't it? With a cone coming out of something. So you need to keep a little eye on it. If you hear mass, it might be coming out of a cone, but it'll usually be really obvious which one is which there.
Do you have any examples of how to visualize 10 meters or 30 feet?
Easy. That's really easy. It's 5 Andrews.
Good point.
Mad Lad times 5, end to end.
Uh-huh.
Often, I think at LARP, people think that spell range, our kind of default range,
Mm.
it's 30 foot, 10 meters. I think people tend to think that's a lot longer than it is, right? Five Mad Lads in a row is not very long. Um,
Mm.
Most of the glades at Rosswood are 60, 90 foot across. So certainly, you don't have the range to cover a whole glade, but that also means that you aren't in range of every AoE effect because you're in the glade, right? Like a key example of this was the unstable ritual at E1. Um, some people may have seen me and Clippy at the side of the glade pacing, and it was 10 large steps from the ritual circle, and that was the range of the surges coming off of that. So
Yeah,
yeah, that range is shorter than people think it is, but that is your benefit and your curse.
cool. How does Surge work? It's come up a bit more frequently in the last couple of events
Hmm.
as a call.
So surge is there's two ways of looking at it, right? It's either mass knockdown and you take a point of damage, or
Mm.
it's mass single and a knockdown, whichever way you want to remember it. But the important thing is, it's a blast of energy that radiates from the direction that it was called in, which goes for standard mass range, which is our 30 foot we just talked about.
Yeah,
Everyone who gets hit by it is knocked over like you've taken a knockback. So
knock you.
not knocked down, yes, indeed. So you are down on the ground, and that is 5 seconds down on the down and up again. And you
Hmm.
also take a point of damage. Um, if you are wearing armor, every location of your armor takes a point of damage. But because obviously base hits are global, you only ever take 1 point of damage to your body. So
Yeah,
it's quite punishing on the front line. It's going to knock you all over, and it's going to degrade all your armor.
yeah. I think the most crucial thing to remember is it has two effects. It knocks you over and does some damage at the same time.
Yeah, exactly right. Like we're representing an explosion, a surge of energy that's gonna it's gonna rush through the glade, it's gonna knock you over, and it's gonna hurt in the process. It's not just sort of a ping point of damage to everybody. We're representing things that we can't phys rep here. So yeah, surge, big overwhelming force of energy. Sometimes, and I'm not sure we've treated them to this yet. Sometimes you might hear surge double or surge triple, but
Yeah.
yeah, enjoy that when it happens.
So
Thank
me.
you. I know, I know. That's the benefit of being problem child. This I like this question. Bubs, how
Yeah.
slow is slow?
Faster than you think. I I think we've used slow a couple of times, and we love the role play that the players do. Most of you are acting too slowly, so it makes you act at half speed for 30 seconds. It is also a mind effect, so if you have a domain that grants you a use of Resolute, you can resist it.
Mm,
Um, but I think most crucially at half speed, it means that if you are casting a spell, instead of at least 3 seconds, it should last at least 6 seconds. And if you're hitting with the weapon and you're doing it, let's say, like once every 2 seconds, it now becomes once every 4 seconds. So
yeah,
it's definitely, it makes you act notably slower than normal, but it's half speed. It's not a snail's pace.
yeah, 100%.
I think that's,
Um,
yeah.
we, as Clippy said, we love the role play. Lots of you are making this harsher on yourself than it needs to be. Um, yeah, you can still fight, you can still move.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Hmm. So, talking about spells and spell vocals,
Yes.
what are some example spell vocals that take 3 seconds?
Ooh, examples to take 3 seconds. Well, let's go with what's at the back of my mind. What's ready to go? By the deep, grant me the cleansing tides, dispel magic, or uh, I call forth the life forces all around me, regrowth, heal 3.
Mm.
Um, by my arcane will, I strike you with a magic bolt, magic double. Those are, I think, all about 3 seconds. It's by the something, and then I do something else. Could you give me some examples, as you put me on the spot,
Yep.
of some which are too short?
Too short. Um. Uh. Actually, I'll put you because you did dispel. And then like something that's too short. By the deep dispel. That's not 3 seconds.
You've missed the good bit
Or
about the cleansing tides, or anything
yeah.
else you want to put in there. But yes, that is too
Um.
short.
Or the in the elemental spells of like I call air knockback.
Yeah,
That's not long enough either. Or even I protect you mage armor. Those are all not 3 seconds.
yeah.
You can make them as long as you want. It's the minimum of 3 seconds that we're after. And I personally think if you do it a bit longer, you get more opportunity for really cool like personal bits of character you can put into your spell vocals.
Hmm.
But more importantly, because it's often something that you can cast at range rather than having to be really up close, it is a skill that should take a couple of seconds to actually go off.
Yeah.
And if you kind of don't do those 3 second spell vocals, it also doesn't give other players the opportunity to react or like run you down. I've definitely done that as a player where someone starts casting a spell, you're like nope, 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 but you just sprint at them. So in a weird way, that opportunity has to be there. So yes, make sure that your vocals are at least 3 seconds.
Alrighty, perfect.
Hmm.
All right, well, it's a bit of a ping pong off to another subject now.
Yep.
Moving swiftly from the power domain down to land. Bubs, how much cover is required for stealth? There's some people not knowing exactly, perhaps, how we initiate stealth. You walk us through the process.
Yes. So in order to successfully use the stealth skill, you're going to have to be partially or fully in cover. So at Rustwood, this will mostly be trees or bushes, anything that is actually hiding you from the people that you're stealthing away from.
Hmm.
Uh, if you move, it breaks the stealth. If someone uses the detect stealth skill on you, it will break the stealth, and then you are on a 30-second cooldown. Um, that cover bit is important. So in the dark, um, it might be tempting to just hide anywhere where it's a bit dark, but you do actually have to be in cover because otherwise people can't just see you where you are.
Yeah. Speaking of examples, I've been giving examples. I've got an
Yes.
example. In the middle
Okay.
of village, on the
Yes.
floor is a stump. Is that
Yep.
sufficient cover for stealth?
No. That's going to cover your ankles, right?
Fine.
Maybe your shins, depending
Fine.
on how tall you are.
Consider myself told. There you go.
Mm.
Stealth in a nutshell.
But
Oh,
you could use the actual hut
oh, definitely,
uh in
definitely.
village as partial or full cover.
I think a
Um,
lot of the time at night you could use those without the stealth skill. It gets very
True.
dark in those.
That's a good point. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I've definitely been on scouting missions and lost players because they were just doing it very well.
we've also temporarily lost crew members in those huts and or ditches. But there you go.
Oh,
We're ping ponging again. We're leaving
yep.
land. We've been to power. We went to land. We're now going
Mm,
down to belief.
yes.
Um, some questions about healing with conviction. Some people saying, "Ah, but I'm not religious. I can't pick up conviction." Bubs,
Wrong.
would you?
Incorrect.
No. Bubs, please tell us a
Yes.
little bit about healing with conviction.
Yes. So conviction is meant to be a catch-all domain for many different ways of healing. So religious roleplay is one of the most common ones. So calling upon a deity or a belief system. So think about gods. Calling upon the deep or the green, powerful beings like the saints. But you can also call upon like nature itself, or your ancestors, or spirits, or belief systems like the virtues, like the Lyrian virtues, Escad ethics, etc. Then you can also do surgical role play, so using sutures or cleaning wounds, resetting limbs, anything I guess traditionally medical.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously because the world of Wilde Realms has domains and trees, you can also call upon those to aid your healing. It's one we can get quite creative with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we do want the roleplay to be related around healing in some way. So some examples of what isn't quite what we want or what we envision would be just having a regular chat for for 60 seconds, or just like one motion hitting someone with a little tool for 60 seconds. It is meant to um, have some actual role play around it, but it's not limited to being religious in some way. There's actually quite a lot you can do with it, and we've seen some very creative uses out there, which we quite enjoy.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely, definitely. Like I remember, and I'm going to set lots of people off by saying this. I remember Bramwin.
I've never been healed by Squire, so I can't speak on that one.
Well, you never will be.
No, true. Um, moving on from healing,
Yes.
this is about how you can use your skills. So, problem child, am I allowed to use multiple skills at the same time?
Ooh. No, with some exceptions. But the general answer here is no. Let's give you some examples. For example, you can use basic medicine. Whilst you're using basic medicine, you're allowed to uh, move the person that you're attending to, and you stop them from bleeding to death. Those things are great. Can I, whilst I'm doing that over here, release a stance over here? No, no.
Mm,
Doing one of those things interrupts the other. Um,
yes.
you also have a couple of other things going on there because so that there are some exceptions as we mentioned, right? So can you be using a bandage consumable whilst firing bolts? No. If you fire the bolt mid bandage, your healing is interrupted and actually you lose the consumable. You can, however, obviously use your conviction healing whilst using a bandage because it says so
Yeah.
on the tin. So any exceptions where you can use another skill on top of another skill will always say so.
Mm,
So yeah, so there are some things that you can't stack I think some of the examples that I'd want to highlight here is, for example, if you have, say you have knockdown as a
Mm.
martial character, but you also have backstab. You can't combine your backstab for backstab double through and your martial knockdown into one strike.
Yeah,
That's
on the
using
same
two
weapon.
abilities at once. You can just stab them a second time and call the knockdown on the second strike, but you can't combine the two. It's so that when we hear abilities, as refs, as monsters, um, each time a call is made, it's essentially one ability's call going off, and we know how you got those abilities. Instead of going, God, I've got to add this and this and that, and is that actually a legit combination?
Yeah.
It also stops some very silly eventualities like holy fire, triple through, rend, knockdown, paralyze, slow. And if I hear people calling that more than once on a weapon, I'm going to get very confused.
Yeah.
So we're trying to stop the inevitable escalation of these things.
Mhm.
But feel free to cast them all in a row.
Yeah, you can do them in succession.
Yeah,
That's not a problem. Just not at the same time.
yeah, just got to stab me twice. Never thought I'd say that on a
Um,
podcast.
uh, moving on to our last question, actually, which is a topic that has caused some confusion in the past, which is the repair mechanic versus the reforging mechanic. When are you using which? Who can use them? How do you use them? Anything
Yeah,
around it, essentially.
yeah. I understand the confusion. Partly it's because we changed it a couple times. It took us a little while to dial in exactly how armor items, breaking armor and items, we wanted that to work, right? So
Yeah.
I think the easiest way to answer your question here is to break this out into really two distinct categories. First of all, we
Hmm.
have repair. Um,
Hmm.
an item needs repairing when it has hit 0 hit points.
Yeah.
Uh, if it is something that doesn't have a hit point track, like a sword, it's never going to need repairing.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
armor
at the moment this only goes for armor.
for armor, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if it were to include anything else, it would only be because that thing would say acts like armor. So repair is for armor.
Yeah.
If you hit 0 hit points on your armor, it needs repair. You can have your armor repaired sooner than that. You don't have to wait. But there are a couple ways that can happen. Obviously, one is through damage, and the other is through the rend call,
Hmm.
which reduces your hit points to 0. It's like sever, but for armor.
Yeah.
I've got a list of ways here in our little.
Yeah.
I love that because I'd have missed one otherwise. So there are two domains that just give you the ability to fully repair your armor straight out. That is steel and divinity. So you got armor repair and divine armor repair.
Yeah. One in
Um,
the war tree and then one in the belief tree.
oh yeah, look, we've touched war now. There we go. We're all 4 trees.
At long
Um,
last.
the general skill basic armor repair gives
Yeah.
you a limited version of that, so you can repair armor to 2 hit points.
Yeah.
So if you're wearing light armor, those are identical, or rather, if the person you are repairing for is wearing light armor, that's identical.
I want to quickly interject here and say it's up to a maximum of 2 armor points, so it's not a case of you're wearing X heavy armor and you've taken 2 hits, so you're still partly like have the armor. Basic armor repair can't then just give you those 2 on top of that to
Yeah,
get to bring it up to the maximum again. It just has a limit of giving you um 2 armor.
yeah, bringing you up to 2 from 0 or
Yeah,
from 1, but either way, capped at 2 hit points.
exactly.
Yes, thank you. Good clarification.
Hmm.
And then the armor repair kit, which is like the bandage of the armor world. It gives you a single use or single use per rip of the steel domain version of repair armor.
Yeah, so it will armor repair kits the crafting, like the crafted item will repair an armor suit all the way up to maximum. And most crucially, anyone can use these. You do not need to possess any kind of skill or need to be any kind of crafter to use an armor repair kit. They're meant to be used by everyone.
Marvelous. So that brings me on to the second half
Yes.
of the scales of repair versus reforge here.
Hmm.
Reforging is needed on items which have expired. Crafted items that have expired, they need to be reforged so they can live another year.
Hmm.
Why is this relevant? Why are we talking about this right now? Because the Shatter call exists. Functionally, a shattered item is broken and needs to be reforged in the exact
Hmm.
same way that an expired item is broken and needs to be reforged.
Yeah.
This is why I mentioned expiry. Um, there are three kind of parts to this, depending on what you have that got shattered or maybe just expired. First of all, mundane items obviously don't expire. These are destroyed with shatter.
Hmm.
Um, a crafter of the appropriate discipline can reforge the item with 3 minutes of roleplay and appropriate fizz reps. Um, you've got a chest plate of X heavy armor, gets hit with a shatter. It's now broken, so it counts as no hit points. Um, and a blacksmith can come along and repair that for you with 3 minutes of roleplay and appropriate fizz reps. You've got a spear. It's been shattered. You're gonna want to go find a carpenter. Your lovely leather armor, a leather worker. Um, yeah, that is the basics of that.
Yes.
Um,
It's worth noting that when we talk about items here, we're talking about weapons, armor, and other items you might have in your possession
mhm,
might get shattered. The second type is crafted items. They'll generally have a lammy with them to say this is, a superior sword, or this is a workbench, or whatever it is that you've crafted. If they expire or if they've been shattered, they need reforging, which is what we're talking about. And then again, a crafter of the appropriate discipline can reforge this crafted item using half the production value of the original recipe, which means the crafter that is doing this reforging needs to know the recipe in order to do it and needs to
mhm,
be of the appropriate crafting level as well, right? Uh, so half the production value, and then in addition to that, every single resource that is mentioned in the recipe, you're going to have to roll a die, and there's a 50-50 chance you'll need it to actually reforge the item. So let's say you've got a crafting recipe, there's 4 resources in there, and it takes 4 production value normally to craft from scratch. It will take you 2 PV, and then for each of those 4 resources, there's a 50-50 chance you're going to have that resource on hand to then reforge the item. So this does require you to go to God.
yeah,
But yes, that's how
that's
crafted items work.
crafted
It's
items.
a very very short TLDR is uh, you need to be a crafter of the right discipline and level, and then you need to use half the production value and 50-50 on each of the resources in the recipe.
Perfect. And that I'll cover the last of the trifecta
Hmm.
here. Um, ritual items. So this is something that's been created ritually, or sometimes you'll have got these through, I don't know, some kind of in-game way, and it will say on the card that it's a ritual item.
Hmm.
If these are shattered, they are considered broken and expired, and the only way to reforge them is with a renewal ritual, the same kind that you would have to do for. I did my ritual for my sword a year ago. It's depowered now. It's broken. I need to renew it. If you have an item that gets shattered before its time, it immediately kind of completes its year's journey and needs to be renewed in a ritual.
Hmm.
It's worth noting that a lot of uh, like crafted lamied items, particularly if they're superior items, lots of them will have a once per day
Hmm.
resist to shatter. Um, that's to reduce that. We don't want like your super lovely items you've spent lots of time working towards, um, you know, killed lots of people for, to feel like they can go away in a heartbeat, right? So
Yeah.
most items, and you'll see it on the card. most items will have at least a once per day resist to shatter. And again, most ritual items will also. Um, it's probably also worth mentioning the exception to the rule, but in a good way. All heritage artifacts are
Mhm.
always and forever immune to shatter. They cannot be broken. They're too damn cool. Guybolg cannot be shattered by I don't know, a guy with a big hammer. Doesn't make any sense.
Nope,
There you go.
we really
That's
don't.
that would end a generations long story of hardship and stewardship over this,
Mm.
and just like a guy bops it and it's gone forever. That doesn't make any sense. So yes, heritage artifacts cannot be shattered.
Mhm. Right. I think that covers all the questions that we had prepared. Uh,
Crazy.
if if you've listened to all of this, first of all, thank you. And if anything else pops into your mind, do feel free to send it our way. If people like this, or if they feel there's more that needs clarifying, we're happy to do this again.
Oh yeah, episode
Um,
2.
yes. And you will have seen we have done a sort of condensed version of these questions and answers in text form as well, so you can refer back to it whenever you want.
Marvelous. Well, thank you very much for having me, Clippy.
You're very welcome.
Excellent. And I'll see you in the next episode or the next game, whichever is first.
Let's hope the next game.
Yeah, as of time of recording, let's really hope the next game is comes out first. All right. Thank you so much.